Okay, hello everyone. It's 6:30, so I think it's time to start. I just want to check, can everyone see me? Well, maybe not me, but the slides. And can you hear me?
Yeah, good.
Okay, cool. So this is the first time doing a webinar format for this session. This is actually the 10th time we're running this session with the Investec Programmable Banking Beta community. It's a collaboration between OfferZen and Investec for everyone who's new here. We've decided to open the session up to the public because we want to, well, let me go to the next slide because that kind of explains, well, this explains that it's an OfferZen community meetup, and the community is about the Investec Programmable Banking Beta. So we've decided to open this meetup to the public because maybe not everyone can get access to the beta right now. But we want to give people as much access to this stuff as possible. And it's in general, it's our mission to give devs open control over the banking infrastructure and give access to banking infrastructure and knowledge, and just give people more chances and opportunities to build cool stuff with that. Why do we run these weekly events? Well, we're a community in our essence, and communities get together and they perform a shared activity where people participate. So we need to tick all those boxes if we want to be a real functioning community, and that's why we get together. But more importantly, we get together to share ideas and to share knowledge and to share what we're up to within the community with everyone that is interested. And just to, I think it's also really useful to just hold us accountable to actually making real progress. It's a really hard forcing function to have these events and keep them fresh. It keeps it in the back of my mind that we actually need to be making progress in the community and keeps things fresh. So thank you for participating because it makes all of that possible. Agenda for tonight is intros and welcome. So basically just introduce people who will be speaking tonight, and then we'll have a fireside chat with Q&A with Willem from Investec. Anthea will take over at that point. We'll then switch to community demo. So Kamagelo will be demoing one of the apps he's actually built using the Investec Programmable Banking Beta tonight. And then we'll get an update from Investec on platform updates inside the beta. And then we will close off at that point. So from point 3 and onwards, it's probably most interesting for people that have access to the beta because from point 4 onwards, most interesting to people that have access to the beta because that's actually platform updates, but you're welcome to stick around and see what's going on on the platform stuff. Like I said, we want to be transparent as transparent as possible. Rules of engagement for tonight. There's a Q&A feature, so you can pose questions to the speaker or the demoer or me. Please use the Q&A feature if you want to ask questions. There's a separate chat feature, so for anyone who hasn't been to the Zoom University, there's actually a separate chat feature where you can chat to each other and ask questions and like post nice messages and things. So yeah, use the Q&A feature, and please don't hold back in asking questions. We'll kind of curate the questions and so you don't have to worry if it's a dumb question, like just put it up there. For now, we're gonna just give the speaker for tonight and the host an opportunity to prepare themselves, and opportunity for you guys to also prepare yourselves. So if you didn't grab a drink or get comfortable, then now's a 2-minute opportunity to do that. And I think Alex is going to run a poll just to give you something to do if you did grab a drink and you are comfortable and ready. So let's take a look at that. I hope you can all see it. I might be able to give you updates as we go. All right, audience is looking youngish. I mean, sorry, age of starting to code is looking youngish. Okay, the teens are taking over. It's got like 50% in my teens, 20% younger than 10 years old. That number is probably picking up for the youth these days. Coding for kids is becoming quite a trend. Tabs is winning. Tabs is ahead. So anyone out there who's into spaces, you better get on it. Otherwise, Tabs is going to be a clear winner here. All right, I think we're going to give it one more minute just to let anyone who's late arrive and let the poll results come in. It's also pretty useful to get these results, just see what the lay of the land is out there on the banking service people use. Got strong representation from Investec tonight. That's good.
A pleasure.
The usual contender, F&B, right up there. Okay, cool. I think we're good to move on. It seems like everyone else is ready. Clear winner there for coding in my teens. Definitely Tabs, and Investec is the most popular bank tonight. So congrats, Investec, guys.
Investec.
Ben, I just see a comment. One of the guys saying on the web Zoom, the client, or in the browser, they're not getting the poll. I don't know.
Okay, we'll take that into account for next time.
Cool.
All right, so next up we've got the Q&A with Willem Fisser from Investec. I'm going to hand over to Anthea to take on the discussion. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Ben, and welcome everyone to our first webinar format of our weekly meetup. I'm very excited and thank you for joining us. We're talking tonight about open banking APIs, and we're very lucky to have Willem Fisser of Investec here. Thank you, Willem, also a very avid member of this community. I wanted to start off the conversation by sharing a quote from Devon Coley, who's Investec's co-head of emerging companies in the UK, which we also actually featured on the invitation. Devon called the move to open banking at the time a seismic shift for banking, which is really interesting considering the impact and the potential for the various markets. But of course, these days we're living through a seismic shift of a different kind, I imagine, but still. Tonight, I'm very excited to be chatting to Willem Fisser, who was the technical lead and the founding member of Investecs UK's Open Banking Delivery team back in 2017. Willem is going to talk to us about his experiences on the project and hopefully give us some nice insight for the opportunities in the local market. Just a little housekeeping reminders for those who joined a bit late. There is a Q&A functionality on Zoom where you can post your questions. We will answer it after the initial chat with Willem. And then if you have any comments or interesting things you want to share, there's also a chat functionality on Zoom that you can use that for. So let's dial in. So before we kick off, Willem, over to you. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and specifically your role on the delivery team for Investec UK's open banking implementation?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. And yeah, thank you for joining our discussion tonight. I think looking at the number of attendees, there's definitely a lot of additional people that has joined. So welcome to our meetup. And yeah, I guess welcome to my living room. COVID has definitely even more of a literal meaning to the living room as we knew it, right? So I think before I get into your question, Anthea, I think I would like to just thank again, like all of our community members for their continued support and, you know, for joining these meetings every week, despite everything that's going on at the moment and them, like most of us are already overspending on that screen time as it stands, you know, so we really do value your input and also the demos that you guys present on a weekly basis is really valuable. So thank you. I think as you have mentioned, I've had quite a bit of involvement with the delivery of our open banking offering in the UK region, especially the initial version of it. And I will definitely share some views in that regard. But as you have requested a little bit about myself, so I've joined Investec back in 2011 as a contractor, and essentially taking care of whatever productivities Wayne and his team would dream up for me, right? So, and this was very exciting, and also a time where the agile methodology has taken some proper traction within the organization. I can remember daily stand-ups back then was quite amusing, especially with everyone being stressed out and, falling behind deadlines as usual. And yeah, it just generally brings a good energy to the floor. So I guess not much have changed since then. So obviously the landscape back then, as well as the tech stack, looked much different from now. Where RESTful APIs have essentially taken over the world and now have become the norm. Coming into Investec, I was mainly specializing in building information systems using the Silverlight and WF frameworks, which, as most of you know, is all mostly redundant today. So I guess for the youngins here, count yourself lucky that you've missed that era. Back then, MVC has taken off quite a bit. And if memory serves me right, it was Wayne still writing dodgy code back then, who was experimenting with the idea of using the controller part of an MVC app, divorce it from the view portion, and repurpose the leaner version of the apps as a RESTful API as we know it today. And yeah, this was in essence my introduction into RESTful APIs, and it has definitely been a focus in my career since then. I think from an organizational point of view, back then our digital channels division did not exist yet. It was still a mere sparkle in the eye of our now global head of digital and tech, Lyndon, who back then was heading the IT division of our wealth and investment business. And I think it was nearing the end of 2011 with Lyndon, Wayne, and a few other individuals. Aaron's that's part of this chat tonight as well. We have essentially set out to start building a mobile application that would allow our clients to trade the JSE from the comfort of their couch, which was quite an interesting experience in itself, as I had very limited experience of the financial markets at that stage. So it was quite an interesting learning experience. But as it stands today, that initial team of about 8 people has grown into a global team of around 130 individuals, essentially responsible for Investecs, digital client experiences, and estate of channel APIs, mobile and web applications. It's needless to say, but the world has moved on quite a bit since then, especially from an architectural and tech point of view. So just getting back to your question, so how did I get involved with banking? I strongly believe it was generally because I'm a sucker for punishment. But I'll start with shedding some light on what open banking is, which should hopefully provide some context around why we chose to take part at that stage. So open banking essentially stemmed from the PSD2 directive, which is essentially an EU directive passed by the European Commission back in 2015 as an initiative to provide a level playing field between payment providers and users. Okay, so it's primarily to stimulate competition, innovation, and the rest. So from a UK point of view, the CMA, which is the Competition and Markets Authority, has essentially enforced this regulation onto the CMA 9, which is the big 9 retail banks in the UK. So obviously, Investec being a very niche bank, we obviously do not form of the CMA 9, but however, like we started looking into this and figuring out whether it would be valuable to pursue in any case. So just back to the CMA 9. So essentially, instead of them each going, figuring out, translating the EU directives, legal terminology into endpoints and payload schemas, they chose to initiate and fund a separate organization called the Open Banking Implementation Entity, abbreviated as the OBIE. And this is basically because, in short, the PSD2 is quite a lumpy document, it's stipulating a bunch of legal terms that define what the financial institutions should provide or should be implementing. But unfortunately, it left out all the chapters on how it should be provided. So it's mostly up to interpretation. So it makes it a bit difficult to understand, like, are you compliant, are you not compliant? I think also primarily, like, it's not useful if everybody go and do their own thing. So for them, it made very good sense to have one implementation entity that governs the technical standards and the rest. So, and that's exactly what the OBI did. So, so the long and short of it is, as long as you implement the regulatory technical standards, you should be, as a financial institution, have a PSD2 compliant solution. And then looking at the potential from our side, especially the potential and the purpose behind PSD2, we definitely didn't want to be left behind. So I think it was in 2017, not sure whether it was towards the beginning or end, but essentially our leaders have made the decision for us to take part and join those 9 retail banks in becoming PSD2 compliant. So not sure who's familiar, but essentially you get three actors. So that's your account information service providers, your payment initiating service providers, and then your accounts services and payment services providers, which are essentially banks or payment providers. Account information services providers are usually account aggregators, and your payment initiating service providers are generally the guys that's going to do payment initiation and the rest. So to finally answer your question, I formed part of the development team in building this out in the capacity of a technical lead and software engineer.
Thanks, Willem. It's very interesting. 2 things from that. The first one is obviously Investec as a niche bank and not really a retail bank. So looking at the opportunity that this framework offered them and seizing that, that's how you win in the future. So investing in the opportunities it creates in the future. So now for the future. And then the second thing is just a point of clarification. So the CMA 9 that you referred to are those 9 largest banks in the UK that legislation specifically targeted. So thank you so much for that. Thank you also for touching on the actual team. I really want to dial into the technical part of the implementation. So can you give us an idea of what you and your team actually worked on to deliver?
Yeah, so I think the silver lining there, as you've mentioned, is the fact that the OBI has already gone through all the hard labor in defining, like, as a standard, what is this going to look like? So luckily for us, we didn't have to go and invent the wheel. Essentially, we just pursued this route of becoming PSD2 compliant by essentially implementing the regulatory technical standards as defined by the OBIE. Me personally, I think my initial focus was bending my brain around PSD2, the regulatory technical standards and all the frameworks, concepts and protocols it presented, such as OAuth2, OIDC, JWS, JWKS, financial API standards and the rest. So my initial days were mostly spent on reading, building context, maybe a prototype here and there, just to understand how the data would flow and essentially how everything would fit together in our architecture and our tech stack, and essentially the channel APIs that we had at that stage. So during this process, we have quickly realized that the implementation of an API gateway would be required, especially for the OAuth portions, because we essentially, because of time constraints and capacity, we didn't want to go and reinvent the wheel, or we wanted to leverage as much as possible. So this is basically where we started benching our initial prototypes against the various potential gateway providers, such as Apogee, MuleSoft, Amazon, and IBM, which was, to be honest with you, quite a tedious process, because all providers follow mostly the same concepts. from an API gateway point of view, such as proxies, products, apps, scopes, and the rest. But they do differ quite a lot in terms of how you would go about the implementation thereof. So it's kind of like baking the same cake 4 times in a row using 4 different recipes, if you know what I mean. So it's quite a, but eventually I think it was nearing the end of January in 2018, we have made the decision to go with Apogee's API gateway. And essentially we got it presented to our global architecture forum for approval, which then in turn allowed me to divert my focus towards getting the relevant foundations in place that would facilitate the OAuth and intent flows as defined by the regulatory technical standards. And that's basically in essence what would allow third-party providers with the ability to request access to our clients' data with their consent, of course, and in turn then allow those third-party providers with the ability to obtain account data, transactions, balances, and even submit domestic, scheduled, and once-off payments.
Which is really the crux of open banking. So that is captured really well.
Yeah, for sure.
Willem, if you have nothing to add to that, then I'll move on. I think it's very interesting when we look at the implementation in the UK, and now obviously you've moved on from that onto exciting other projects based here in South Africa. But when we look at the local players, we've actually seen very few so far embrace open banking. And last year we had one of the big 4 retail banks who decided to open up, so to speak, but really no other progress. So can you give us some insights into your thoughts on whether open banking, the framework, is actually possible in South Africa?
Yeah, okay. So to be honest, I don't think we can afford not to pursue open banking or even open APIs for that matter. You know, the world is being translated into APIs and it makes good sense for us to follow suit. I mean, take for example, the Australian consumer data standards. They are literally in the process of defining every sector of their economy as an API. And I believe we should as well. But yeah, I mean, having said that, there are quite a few risks to be mindful of here, especially, you know, taking the fact in consideration that we don't have a technical working group here in SA, such as the OBIE and the DSB, which in essence is the Data Standards Board responsible for the consumer data standards in Australia. So, and you know, like mentioning that, just Lowe's conversation from last week comes to mind. I mean, you know, with him and Ruud attempting essentially the same thing within the insurance sector. And even then, like, no common data standards either. So I think this is quite a risk, and he has mentioned that as well last week. So what it's therefore, you know, it's quite imperative for us, you know, especially being the early players in the market, to probably try and align to more established standards. Because at the end of the day, you also do not want to get into a position where, you know, a developer have to deal with a multitude of implementation standards, one for every organization, you know, and essentially just wanting to do the same thing. So it should remain fairly intuitive for somebody that wants to build an app or wants to consume an organizational API. Should be fairly intuitive in terms of how the security standards work, how the request URIs are structured, how the payloads are structured. And I think that's where we can definitely look towards the open banking and Australian Common Data Standards. Yes, there are other standards in Europe as well. But I think at the end of the day, they've broadly based it on like the financial API standards, open API standards, and proper RESTful standards already defined. They didn't go and reinvent the wheel. You know, and I think, so apart from aligning to a common, or apart from providing a common integration standard, I also believe that it might even be more important to, you know, focus on building valuable APIs. In the end of the day, like an API in essence is just a tool. So, and it's not being used, it will become a very expensive prototype. So and mentioning that back in the day, the 330 rule, the 333 rule came up quite evident, and that's basically, it basically just stipulates that, you know, a developer should be able to find your APIs within three seconds. It shouldn't take a developer more than 30 seconds to gain a basic understanding of how your APIs fits together, how, you know, how to get a session in terms of OAuth and the rest, and essentially three minutes, you know, to get a session and data result. And the way that we accomplished that with our open banking implementation was through the use of common tools, such as developer portals and sandbox environments. So that will basically allow you to easily find our APIs and start consuming sandbox environments, even though it's like mocked API endpoints. But it would give you an idea as to like how difficult is it to consume this organization's API. So at the end of the day, APIs, you know, should be easy to understand and implement. And I think, you know what, at the end of the day, just bringing South Africa back into context, you know, we as a nation, we've got an amazing technical capability, and we've got really having an abundance of extremely talented individuals. We are nature driven to, you know, explore, tinker, and build. So I strongly believe this is something we should pursue.
Thank you for that. I think it's really important what you said about, you know, it being useful and making sure that the common standards are applied. But also, I love the idea of we actually cannot afford to not pursue this approach, which at the same time creates opportunity for many other players in the field. Before we wrap or run to questions from the audience, I have one final question. You're currently working on Investecs Programmable Banking project, which is a thriving community and also the reason why we're all here tonight. You mentioned to me earlier during a chat that you believe open banking and programmable banking go hand in hand. Can you give us in a very short answer why you think that?
Yeah, so I think, you know, as I've mentioned, you know, APIs are merely tools that allow for system-to-system integration at the end of the day, right? So I believe actually with this project, we are taking the open banking concept to the next level. And why I'm saying that is because the open banking standards primarily focus on, shall I say, stimulating competition within the market by allowing third-party providers access to clients' data. I think what we are doing here is giving clients access to their data. So essentially, you know, if you can code, you can get it. And I think this is extremely powerful. And what we are doing currently with the programmable banking project is definitely just the beginning of what will come. So, you know, I think also, is, you know, what we've done with, in collaboration with Root, you know, providing our clients with a programmable card platform, giving our clients more control over their cards' transactional flows. This is becoming the norm. And you know, I think it's key to remain relevant in this day and age. I think programmable banking, however, is at the end of the day more than the open API and programmable card platform. It's just tools. I think for us, programmable banking is at the end of the day about our community, about our clients, and I think also for making a real positive impact within the South African tech sector.
Thank you. I love that. I think it reminds me of a line on the Investec website where it sums up the potential for open banking really well, which is it's an initiative that gives consumers control of their data and finances. And with programmable banking, obviously we're doing that with the dev community. So that's very exciting. Thank you, Willem. We have quite a few questions in the Q&A. Just a reminder to everyone on the call that you can add your questions there. We'll try and work through as many of them as we can. Let's go to the first one. It's from Justin Bradshaw. Willem, he's asking, to what degree was PSD2 approached from a compliance point of view versus an opportunity to reimagine business models?
Okay, cool. So it actually goes hand in hand, right? So from a strategic point of view, we wanted to be like, we wanted to play along in order to get to that place where we do have the tools in place. We are allowed to play it within the UK region because we are compliant. I think that was just the first step. Getting a suite of open APIs, PSD2 compliant APIs is just the first step. What we are seeing now is, so currently we are on that side. We're definitely still in the beginning phases of people, of third-party providers reaching out and actually onboarding onto our APIs. However, and that's where I'm very positive about what we are currently doing in the SA sector, is because I think historically and still current, like this is a nation that adopts very quickly, and we are very early adopters of new technologies. In the UK, I don't know, I think it's still like gaining momentum there. You know, I think it was such a, I think as with most of these projects, it's like getting it out and then like waiting for people to break down the door. And the reality is, the people are still getting their minds around it, and they're still building momentum that side. However, we didn't want to like get caught behind. So as it stands, like as it's picking up momentum, we are there. Like we're running shoulder to shoulder, and like if you want to consume our APIs and you are also compliant, AISP or a PISP point of view, you would be able to onboard onto our platform and consume our APIs.
Great, thank you for that. I have a few questions actually that speaks to, you know, the local banking landscape and why companies haven't, you know, joined the movement. I'm going to ask the one posed by Hagashan Naidu, who's also a very active member of this community. So Willem, can you please tell us, why do you think the other banks have not yet joined the movement to open banking, specifically in South Africa?
Look, to be honest with you, I really cannot talk on their behalf, right? So I can maybe just share our own experiences. At the end of the day, like an open API, if you think about it conceptually, like you need to get a session and then start consuming data, right? It sounds very basic. Until you start delving into the deeper, like the belly of the beast, like integrating into legacy systems, sitting, you know, behind closed doors that's been running there for years, like then it becomes quite an interesting exercise. So I think from a monetary point of view, it is quite a big commitment. And it's something that, you know, at the end of the day, you can provide an API and it's cool, but if nobody's using it, like it's no purpose. So I don't know why. I think potentially, if I had to make an obvious guess, the fact that we do not have a governing body that is like with the Australian data standards, that data standards board, actually looking at their economy and actually understanding that, you know, APIs are the future. I mean, there's Low and Root. They are in a process of making insurance companies APIs. If you look at projections and you know, just people envisaging the future, like everything is going to be an API. So I think it's very risky at this point in time to not get those basics in place, because it's going to be very difficult to catch up. And there is movement, there is momentum. So I can't say why. I would imagine it's probably because there's no common standard as yet.
Yeah, no common standard, and of course it takes a huge amount of investment to, you know, make this happen. Two questions, if you can answer in quick succession. So the first one is, How is open banking different from APIs provided by aggregation services such as Yodlee? And I think we touched on that during our earlier conversation. So could you jump into that one first?
Okay, cool. So, from an SA perspective, Yodlee is very much still screen scraping, right? So if you had to like allow Yodlee to consume your platform so that your clients can actually like link you up onto their onto their account, like in essence, it's a very long process. So we literally just went with a similar process with the asset management split. So in essence, the turnaround time of Yodlee is about, I think, 3 to 6 weeks. And that is once your code complete, right? So that is like signing off on how the physical HTML structure of your application or your website. And then the turnaround time of that is quite heavy. From a UK perspective, however, Yodlee are actually one of the signed up third-party providers. So they're already compliant from an OBIE perspective. They have been onboarded onto our Open API platform, and yeah, good to go. So just back to the question, what's the difference? So I guess at the end of the day, right? So with an Open API, you onboard, you get your OAuth credentials. You've got your client ID and secret. You consume our Open API. You say, give me a bearer token, and you start consuming data. That's it. And all RESTful APIs, it's standardized JSON payloads. It's versioned. End of the day, like every time there's a substantial change, like I think the screen scraping feels suboptimal, to be honest.
The related question, which was posed by Thabo Ngubani, he says he wants to know, is it legal how 227 and Yodlee are accessing user data in the way that is currently taking place?
Yeah, I would imagine they would have probably been liquidated by now if it wasn't legal. So the way that it works is basically you provide consent, right? So you provide consent for them to actually like utilize your credentials and start like scraping your profile in order to actually just get to those numbers, right? But it's definitely legal. As I mentioned, it's just like a very suboptimal process. I think what the benefits that you get with an Open API, for instance, is like our clients can online basically revoke access to third party. So today you can essentially grant access to a third party provider to essentially get access to your accounts and transactions for the last 30 days. You can restrict them from initiating payments and the rest. And then tomorrow you can actually just go and revoke it if you want. And instantly, like they won't be able to consume your data any longer.
And the data they've already like had access to, is that all gone, or still do they have it on their system?
To be honest with you, so in essence, like it's you as the person owning the money or whatever, the user, and that's a separate like negotiation or contract between you and the third party provider. Why? Because if you look at how this consent process work is, it's essentially driven from the third-party provider. So you are essentially browsing the third-party provider's app. You've got your user credentials there. And then through the use of three-legged OAuth, so essentially what we'll do is if you would like to, say, for instance, use a budgeting feature on that third-party provider's app, that third-party provider would say, okay, cool, we are integrated with the following banks. Investec are one of the banks. And it's essentially, you would say, okay, cool, I'm banking with Investec. And then they actually stipulate like what information they're going to ask for how long, and the rest. If you buy into that, that's when what they call the three-legged OAuth flow kicks in, where essentially the third-party provider app then hands you over into our world, because obviously we'll never let you log in with your Investec credentials on a third-party provider's app. So they hand you over to us, you go in with your normal credentials, and we essentially play back that consent request from that third-party provider, stipulating exactly the same permission structures, and then essentially what you accept those terms, you can apply to certain accounts within your profile, and then essentially after performing a second factor, then we hand you back to the third-party provider with their OAuth authorization code, and essentially then they can obtain bearer tokens and carry on with life. But you can, as a client, revoke that access at any point in time.
You're really making a hard case for why open banking APIs is a much safer, transparent process for both the third party, for the provider, and for the consumer. I wanted to
overall, it's the way to go, definitely.
I wanted to ask some quick questions around the Investec programmable banking beta. So can you quickly give us your view, a question from Richard O'Brien. What is your end vision or Investecs end vision for Investecs programmable banking program? And what type of core features do you currently envision releasing?
Okay, cool. So I'll keep it limited considering there's a few people in the group.
Yeah.
But so I think for us, the primary concern, so I think there is vision, obviously. There's roadmap, but I think when we basically went on this journey, like one of the key principles within our team was not going to go and deliver a bunch of things that people might need, right? So our roadmap is very much community driven at this stage. And that's why the community is so important to us, and especially their input. And that goes not only for the programmable banking platform, it goes for the open API platform as well. At the end of the day, we're not going to spend days in and out just building stuff that people might need. Like we want to do valuable stuff. It's really important for us to invest in things that people will love using and will continue to use. And that's the important part for us. From a vision point of view, yes, I think there's a great vision there. Yeah, it's to be shared over time. I think I'm going to hold a few cards to my chest in that regard for now.
I love that. Thank you. And we have a question from Milan, who's asking, when do you think, if it's going to happen, or if it's in the pipeline? Yeah, this is one that's been set up. Will the same programmable card / APIs be available on Investec Business Banking?
So shall I go with it's not off the cards for now?
Cool, that's fine. Happy with that one. Next question's just yes or no with a short answer if we can. We have way too many questions. We won't be able, unfortunately, to work through all of them. Do you think SA can catch up to the UK/EU in terms of open banking? Yes, no, and why?
Flip, I hope it's a yes, right? Otherwise we'll do. So, you know what I think, like it's impossible to say, right? It's impossible to say whether we would be able to catch up. The reason why I'm feeling we would be, I think just going back to what I said earlier in terms of tech adoption. Like if you look at like mobile technology adoption in SA, it's like insane. And just in general, we're a nation that like we like to explore, we like to challenge, we like to experiment, we like to take risks. So, you know, hopefully broader industry will follow. And, you know, because I think that the sooner we do that, the better, or the sooner we can get all the creative minds, you know, building apps and actually building the, you know, the South African economy at the end of the day. So definitely, my hope and dream is that we will actually surpass them.
You mentioned the lack of a sort of oversight / regulatory body to really enforce this in South Africa. Again, yes or no, and why? Do you think that the regulators should mandate participation by banks? So set up a body and then mandate open banking in South Africa?
Yes, but I think broader than that, I think we shouldn't contain it to just banks. Like we should really go and think about essentially the insurance sector, the telecommunication sector. There's a lot of opportunity here. People want to build apps. People want to drive the economy with apps, but essentially it's very difficult if you've got this amazing idea, but there's no point of entry. Like then that's when you have to rely on stuff like screen scrapers and the rest. So not to elaborate too much, but I think it will be helpful because I think also then like other players will come into the pool and start participating because they know that, cool, this is the standard. At this point in time, we are leveraging all other standards and like it's everybody kind of for himself, like moving hopefully in the right direction.
Yeah. Willem, final question and maybe just a one off the cuff. What is your elevator pitch when you're trying to sell programmable banking to someone who knows nothing about it? 30 seconds or less.
Remember the days we all used elevators, eh? I can't even remember how one looks inside, but in any case, so you know what, at the end of the day, my elevator pitch for open banking or open APIs is, you know, at the end of the day, this is like, it's a key component of driving innovation. Like without it, like how are you going to build those apps and how are you going to innovate and how are you going to drive this economy? So I would actually say, you know, come along for the ride. You know, I know it's very corny, but that's it. So the sooner you collaborate, the sooner we can make a real impact, and the sooner we can actually start driving this economy.
Thank you very much, Willem. I think there's a huge opportunity here being realized, you know, in areas like the UK, but also obviously for South Africa. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being so candid, and we ran over time a little bit, so thank you for staying with us. I'm going to hand over now to Ben. The second half of the program, or the next few minutes, we're going to be spending with the community, the programmable banking community, with a demo, and then also some updates later. So if you want to join, please do. But if those new joiners who joined us today, if you want to hop off, feel welcome. Thanks again, Willem. Over to you, Ben.
Welcome.
All right, hello, I'm back. We've got a demo from Kamagelo. It's called Purple Pigger. We totally surprised him this earlier today, well, actually a few hours ago, and let him know that there's going to be almost 200 people attending this event. So let's give him lots of support, and thank you also for not bailing on us. I know that you had some studying lined up for this evening, so really appreciate you giving your time to show us what you've built with the Programmable Banking Beta. If you're ready, do we have you? Are you able to?
Yep, I'm right here. Thanks for the welcome,
awesome.
Ben.
Do you want to take us through this slide, which just gives us a little overview of what your app does, and then you can share your screen and take us through your demo.
Perfect. I've got one screen to show, so this is going to be a really quick demo. But in short, the idea, I'll sort of start from the bottom, is to have a way to manage your daily spending. The idea came from nights out and overspending a bit when you're out with your friends. If there was a way to manage it, in this case programmatically, that would be great. That's what this app is for. It's linked to the before transaction function in the programmable banking sandbox. It checks all transactions against any budget that you've set. So if you have a budget set for tonight that expires at 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, any transaction on the card will be logged against that budget. If the transaction is going to push you over, it declines it. Otherwise, you're good to go. It's built on Firebase in the back. This is based on, I want to say, Jeremy's Firebase logging repo. This is a second iteration in an attempt to extend an existing application instead of just building one. The front end was going to be built in Svelte. I've used Vue, I've used React. I took it as an opportunity to learn something else. I'm ready to show you what it would look like, or at least it looks like in my mind.
Cool. I've stopped sharing, so you should be able to take over.
That. Can you see it?
Yes.
Perfect. So
it's looking great. That looks amazing.
it's a free theme. I'll start off by saying that. And it's after I found out that you sort of approve everything, I had to sort of reimagine it. That's when I went into the 5-base functions thing. And I sort of set a default to let it fail based on the budgets. What you would do is you would, oh wait, the chat window's in my way, hold on. You'd have a user interface, you'd have an account, you'd log in, you've already linked it to your programmable banking thing. We've seen it a million times, I'm not gonna bother with that. You'd set up a budget, you'd name it, you'd give it a maximum amount, start date, start time, end date, end time. Then you have your bracket for said budget. You'd have different kinds of budgets that you might want to account for, whether it's Christmas presents, your night out, a festival at a certain point in time like that, or a monthly expense like your travel. You might want to cap that off at some point to force yourself to stay within budget. And basically that's what the app is for. It'll give you a little overview, a visual overview of how close you are to hitting your budget. And I just realized you could probably use this for savings as well. If we had a transactions API, you could also visualize how close you are to savings, but that's not the point. The point is this will help you manage your budget better. There's my show and tell.
Awesome, thanks, dude. That's epic, and I love the interface. Is there a way to simulate a transaction, or is that not set up at the moment?
I set it up in Firebase, but I'm not sure if I deployed the functions. Let's say no for now.
Okay, cool.
You will see a PR in Jeremy's repo when it's ready.
Okay, cool. So I think it'll be great to have you back also later when you've worked on it a little bit more. But thanks so much. That's really awesome. It's looking great.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben.
Cool. We're going to move on now to updates from the Investec team on the from like the latest platform releases and stuff. I'm just trying to find this window. I think I'm sharing the slides. These are pretty much just cues for the Investec team to take over and update us. So the first one is this card toggle.
Yeah. So how's it, guys? My name's Joel Kruger, also a developer on the Programmable Banking project. Just so we've had 1 or 2 clients come back to us even after we've launched this feature, saying that like they stuck it or words or something and they couldn't pay because something was going wrong in the code. So we did launch a feature just to it's a kill switch. So if you add a merchant and you can't process a transaction and you really have to, currently now you can log into the web to disable the hook into the card, so your code won't be executed against the card when you disable programmable banking for that card. The other part is we are also busy building it into the web. I mean, not the web, into the mobile app. So you won't need to log into the actual website. You can just open up your Investec app, 2FA, and then toggle off the card, which will be a lot easier.
Sweet. Next up, Charlie, you mentioned something about unsupported methods.
Yeah. So I think Ernst can also talk to this. We've gotten a lot of feedback about when we initially launched, there was kind of the view that we'd have something like before transaction, after decline. So if your transaction was declined, it would kick into this method after decline. But the thing is, we've deprecated those for now. We consulted with the community a few weeks back and essentially came to the consensus that instead of providing like 6 different methods that you could hook into, in your after transaction, we'll essentially give you a response about the transaction's status. So was the transaction declined? If yes, then you can just do your own logic in there. You don't need to kick into a whole different method. And yeah, there's some really cool responses you can get, like incorrect CCV number was tried on your card, or so yeah.
Yeah, hi everyone, Ernst from Investec. So yes, the changes we're making there is you'll always get the after transaction now. So it no longer switch between the two options that are currently live, which is after transaction and after decline. So now it'll always be after transaction. In there, you'll get a status now that'll tell you approved decline, as well as a status code and the reason. So if it's insufficient funds or your before transaction declined it, those kind of things.
So what's really cool about that is, say, for example, when Willem has our open API ready and you can actually transfer between accounts or something, if you've run out of money, you could pull in money from a different account, kind of thing. So it opens up a lot of possibilities as well.
Okay, thanks guys. Last one I think is separate sandbox and production code. I think a lot of people are going to be happy about this one.
Yeah, so we did give a brief update last week, but we have a lot of new people in the community. So yes, we're currently in testing with this feature. So in its existing state, if you make changes to your code, you have to actually publish it, which makes your code live to be able to test it. Going forward, you'll now be able to save separate from publishing. So you can save your code, test it, and when you're ready, then only publish. So that's currently in testing and will be going live soon.
Cool, thanks guys. That's pretty much it. This has been a major success. So thanks to everyone who's still here. We've got, geez, like majority of people have stayed all the way to this point in time. We decided to, well, Milan's raising a hand. Does that mean something? Milan, do you want to, I don't know if we can let you speak. Is there, okay, never mind. Now everyone's raising their hands. But yeah, thanks. This has been a major success for us. I hope it was useful to you guys. I think everyone staying has been useful. I think it's a good time to maybe